Yes, now, and welcome back to episode 119 of the Top Loader podcast. And this is the Euro preview. Obviously, this Friday is the massive football festival beginning with the Euros, Copa America as well, but we're going to be focusing more on the Euros for this week. And before, obviously, we talk about and delve into the month of a brilliant football upcoming. H, how you doing, my friend?
I just realised I've missed the memo.
It's just missed the memo.
Like,
It's football
I've really. Why is your camera zooming in, by the way?
Production level.
I've just realised I've missed out. I actually I missed the memo. Anyway, yes, I'm all right. I'm all good. I'm all right. Getting by. Can't complain. All good, mate. I'll need to forget the memo for next time. I completely forgot.
Yeah, sorry about that. We didn't tell you.
Off to a flyer.
Obviously, before we do introduce our very special football specialist that we brought in for this episode, we've managed to nick him off of Sky Sports for the night. But obviously, this episode is brought to you by Third Down the Space, your number one space for card supplies, custom card stands, great preparation kits, and everything else in between. But if you want a custom stand for the Euros, which I could be picking up because I've just had a great idea for a stand. But if you do use the code TTP10, that will get 10% off everything in your basket. But most importantly, he's gone in the free lines already. He's got the beer in hand, so he's fitting right in with everyone in the country. But Mr. George, obviously, Mr. Lavender, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Just want to start off by saying congratulations getting nominated for Podcast of the Year again. And
what a man.
Looking forward to the episode.
What a man. This is why we brought him back. We only told him he could come on if he opened with that line as well. How fantastic. Like, he read the memo. Get in. But no, like we say, a massive, obviously, thanks for whoever has nominated us for Podcast of the Year again. Like I say, it's an absolutely fantastic and thriving category. Yet again, where it's actually at a higher level than it was last year. A lot more new candidates in there. And I think the podcast has been getting even better, hasn't it, H?
It definitely has, mate. It's growing. It's growing a lot. Even to look back to when we first started, and to see sort of where the whole podcast scene is at now. It's a great bunch of contenders and nominees. You can't really. You could split with a knife edge. There's definitely a lot of great contenders, and there's some great podcasts out there now. And it's fantastic to see there's so much content out there that people are making, and there's accessible to anybody within the hobby that you can learn about anything. So it's great to see. It really is, and we've obviously got a lot more competition than last year. So you can just keep fingers crossed. Do you know what I mean?
And talking about competition, obviously the biggest competition of them all this summer is obviously taking part in Germany.
What an interlude!
Starting this Friday, obviously between Germany and Scotland of the home nations, but no doubt we're not going to be any biased at all. We're not going to be biased against Scotland, despite me wearing a Germany shirt and hoping Kai Havertz scores 5 goals against them. But we're not going to be too biased at all. But obviously, we're looking forward to the Euros now. All the squads have been announced. The boring friendlies are out of the way. And when I mean boring friendlies, some of the worst football I've ever seen. But there's nothing quite like international competition football in comparison to that absolute dross that we've watched at St James's Park and at Wembley.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't look into the friendlies too much, honest, before a big competition like Euros, because players aren't going to give it their all, and they don't want to get injured before they go out there. So I think the Iceland game and I don't remember who played, but I don't think that's going to really mean much. And come Sunday, I think the first game is, I think it'll be all different, and so yeah, we can sort of look behind, look ahead even of those friendlies and go and smash Slovenia out the park.
Right. Yeah, there we go. I was going to say, I wondered if he's been doing his research. He has been doing his research, obviously. But H, obviously, we don't want to talk too much in particular about England, but obviously we're always going to have a slight focus about England. Obviously, their squad, there was quite a lot of interesting discussions whether certain players should have gone, shouldn't have gone. I don't think everyone's truly happy with the squad that Southgate's gone with, but obviously he's the man in charge. So how do you feel about the actual overall squad going into the Euros?
I think it's very mixed in terms of opinions. For me personally, we arguably have some of the best attacking players in Europe. There's no doubt about that. When you drop in the likes of Maddison, you've got someone of that. Grealish. I mean, yes, granted, Grealish hasn't played enough for City this season. Granted, Maddison is not going to get in there ahead of Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham. But you're leaving players of shut up, lad. You're leaving players arguably of that caliber behind. For me, bias, obviously Ben White should be on a plane. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. Whatever's happened. The team is a strong choice. I do think the team is a strong choice. The only player that for me I think was the wrong decision to leave at home was Grealish. I will put my opinion out of the line on that one. In my opinion, it should have been maybe someone like Tony that went home. I think when you've got the likes of Kane and Watkins, we don't play with two strikers. So why do we need three strikers in the squad? It's like Grealish can come on in the 70th minute and win you a free kick on the edge of the box. Do you know what I mean? He's that sort of player. Tony, Kane, and Watkins are all similar in terms of an aerial threat. They can finish. They're strong. They can hold the play up. So, yeah, in my opinion, the only swap that I would have done was I'd have sent Tony over and kept Grealish in the squad. Otherwise, yeah, I agree with leaving Maddison out. I think he's one of those players where the competition you've got around you, you've got to be at the top of your game to get into that England squad in terms of that position. So I think, yeah, for me, the only one I would have changed was Tony to leave out the squad and for Grealish to stay in the squad. But otherwise, you've got the strongest pick of the bunch, in my opinion, on terms of the overall squad he's picked. You boys may disagree. You may say something else. But for me, I think that's the only one that I would have disagreed with personally in terms of Southgate's squad choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only one I would bring up is obviously Branthwaite. When I was going through the provisional squad of what I would have took by that early preliminary squad, I was not even 1 point. I actually come across my brain of not taking Branthwaite because I think he's a very good centre half. He's one for the future, but we took three centre backs out of that team, and all right, then they're saying that Shaw has played at centre back in the past. Kyle Walker can cover at centre half, but you know what's going to happen? John Stones is not the most injury-free person in the history of football. He gets an injury, already starting to struggle at the back. So I was very surprised about that one. I was very happy that he's decided to take Adam Walton in midfield and Kobbie Mainoo. I think that's going to be a good experience for them at a young age. And hopefully, if the first two games go as how they could go, they might even get some minutes in that third game, which would be brilliant for their development and no doubt puts Adam Walton even more in the shop window, even though I think a lot of teams are already chasing him. But obviously, Lav, you're very happy of a certain person's inclusion. Obviously, Raheem Sterling just missed out, which I know you're gutted with. But Cole Palmer is obviously sitting there on the plane, and no doubt you're going to try and make an argument for him starting.
Yeah, to an extent. I think obviously he's the highest scoring Englishman in the Premier this season, so he'll play that into hand. But yeah, like you said with Branthwaite, I think was the biggest one that I thought was left out, and maybe another centre back. If I was going to be biased, I'd say Colwill maybe, but I can see what's been left out. Maybe Tomori, but he never even gets a look in for England. So yeah, I think that's the only place where I'm sort of struggling for positions as a centre back, and I feel like sending Branthwaite home, who was probably second to Stones in my opinion, seemed a bit clueless, really.
Yeah, I think it's quite an intriguing one. Obviously, if the rumoured 11 is saying to be believed, it's going to look along the lines of Pickford in goal, Cole Walker at right back. It looks like Trippier is going to start the first game at left back because Shaw's not fully fit yet, with Mark Guéhi and John Stones at centre back. Then it's a midfield three of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Declan Rice, and Jude Bellingham. On the right wing, Bukayo Saka. Left wing, obviously Phil Foden, and down the middle, Harry Kane. So, H, if you're looking at that 11, I know, like you mentioned it before, we are very top heavy in terms of that. There's a lot of attacking talent. No one's going to dispute that. We've probably got one of the most decorated attacking lineups in terms of ability. But obviously not to rule out the likes of France, Germany, other teams like that, because they've got brilliant attacks as well. But do you think it could be a case of I know in football your goal is to outscore your opponents, but it's going to be a case of clean sheets might not be the easiest thing to come by. So we're going to have to score in every game, in my personal opinion, maybe 2 or 3, if not maybe sometimes more.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the Euros is one of those where you don't often see clean sheets. You don't often see a 0-0, for example. So, as you say, the aim of the game is to outscore your opponents. But equally, the defence comes into play in that in such a big part. And do I think we have one of the strongest back lines in Europe? No, I don't. I think we have a lot of mistakes in that back lineup, and we've seen that already in playing against Iceland and then playing against whoever the face was the week before that. I was that bored. I don't know who Bosnia. That's it. Yeah, it was that die that I don't remember who he played. But yeah, I think there's so much at stake that every mistake is costly. And I think Rams are getting beaten at his near post against Iceland. You can't afford to get beaten at your near post. Do you know what I mean? It's little things where it's like, you know what? It's already good about scoring your opponent, and if they score 5, you score 6. But equally, your defense have let in 5. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost a double-ended sword. But yeah, we know we can do it. We've done it before. We got through to the Euros final last time. We seem to always turn up when we get to a tournament and it's something actually to play for. We tend to turn up. So yeah, I think it's just going to be going to be an interesting one. I think the first couple of games in the group stages are going to be an interesting watch. But yeah, we've just got to take our chances. We just got to take our chances and hope that we manage to play the way that everyone knows we can play and we have played before.
Yeah, I was just saying, Lav, last one for you about England in particular before we look over overall competition. Obviously, now it does look like Trent will be the partner to Declan Rice in that midfield. It's kind of one of them positions that has been left a bit vacant. Obviously, in prior tournaments, it has been Jordan Henderson, but obviously, since even it was question marks at the last competition over his position in the team. But obviously, now then he went to Saudi and then obviously come back to the Netherlands. So, would Trent be your option in there? Because it is a position where it's actually quite predominantly younger players who might not just be ready yet for an international competition.
Yeah, I think when Trent came on the other day, he was really good and he looked really sharp. So I think he's going to do well in that position. Obviously, there's a lot of cover as well. If it doesn't go well, you can change it. You've got the likes of Kumainu, Conor Gallagher, etc. on the bench. You can come in and definitely do a good job in that role. So I think Trent will be the best option. Come the second half of the first game, we'll definitely see if that's true or not.
Yeah, like I say, I think it's a very much. Whereas at the last World Cup, it was a youngish team, but it was a lot of experience. There's quite a few players in the squad who haven't got the experience, and obviously, I think that's partly Southgate. Obviously, probably won't be in charge for the US, Canada, Mexico World Cup in 2026, but it's a lot of these players will be involved in that tournament again. Obviously, a few will drop out due to age, form, or whatever it may be, but this seems to be the squad that is slowly revolving forward. You've got Jude Bellingham in the team who's near enough won it all already at such a young age, who's going to be in that England team, hopefully for 5, maybe 6 more international competitions. So it's good to be mixing the youth with with experience. All right, maybe could have done with a bit more experience. Obviously, if Harry Maguire didn't have his injury, no doubt would be starting alongside John Stones. But if we move to tournament in a whole, we've got some categories to pick from in a bit. But H, when you look at these international tournaments, obviously it's great because there's some games you'd never watch in a million years if it was on TV. However, when it's the Euros, World Cup, whatever it may be, and it's on, it's going on. It don't matter if it's Serbia versus Ukraine or wherever it may be. It's just great because you get an excuse to watch every international team, 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 8 p.m. So if you want the TV, you can have it to 2 and then you can have it at midnight.
Oh, mate, 100%. It's any excuse to watch any game of football. We're deprived from the Premier League for the next, couple of months. So, I mean, for example, on the 18th of June, you've got Turkey against Georgia at 5 o'clock. Am I going to put that on? Most probably. Will I have it on while I'm at work? Most probably. Like, it's just one of them things. Any game that's on, you watch it. Which I guess the beauty of these competitions, where, like you say, you will watch two teams play that you would never in your wildest dreams think of even watching. But it's what makes it. It's all part of it. And I think, whether you're sitting on your sofa on a Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, whatever it is, watching two random teams from Europe kick a ball about, or whether you're watching the semi-final, it's all got the same sort of vibe for it. So, hopefully if the weather can make its mind up and the sun comes out, we can have an incredible summer with the Euros in the beer garden and whatnot. Then obviously it'll be a nice little turnaround. But yeah, it's one of those funny things where you do find yourself, for example, watching Georgia against Turkey on a random Tuesday afternoon. But hey, it's the beauty of the Euros, isn't it?
Yeah, like I say, we can't have a top load podcast and not talk about somewhat cards. This might be the longest ever interlude between starting a podcast about cards and talking about cards. But Lav, looking at this international competition and relating it to the card market, you're going to see someone have a good performance and some of their cards go for a bit more in price. Or like when we come to it later on, the breakout star of the Euros, there might be someone whose cards are literally pennies, but will go to quite a high number during the Euros. Do you think it's going to be quite intriguing to watch and reflect on the difference between the beginning of the Euros, during it and after, of certain prices of certain players? It might not even be that they've won the Euros or done really bad, but depending on how that individual players, because always there's that 1, 2, or 3 transfers that happens off the back of the Euros.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a few players who I'm sure will put in our breakout star in a bit that will be looking to move in the summer, who might have a good Euros and their cards might fly up in value. There's a lot of young players going to this Euros, and there's a lot of so many sets of cards now that probably most players in the Euros have their own card now. And also you have the Euros finest that released a few months ago now, and I'm sure there'll be cards from that will go up in value. I remember last tournament seeing Bellingham cards fly when he was came on and started scoring for England. So I'm sure it'll be the same this time around.
Yeah, as I say, I remember one of the crazy ones at the last World Cup was Goncalo Ramos up front for Portugal. His Merlin Chrome cards went absolutely mental when he started up front for Portugal. I remember some of the 125s were going for like 65 quid, and then as soon as the tournament finished, there was about 6 quid again. So it's always great fun to see that going along. And obviously now everyone has their favourite players or favourite teams to watch, but you do kind of build more interest in certain players that you might have never seen before. Then you actually might start following them at their team. You might just pick up a card of them for the sake of picking up a card of them because you just like them during the tournament. So, H, obviously, with so many sets now available for so many different leagues, obviously there's going to be a very select amount of people that might not have a card at all. Obviously, we don't know yet whether it's going to be a top chrome for the Euros, whatever that set might be. But it's always quite cool to tie cards with memories. We've said this before, but it might just be someone's performance and you watch at the tournament and you'd be like, you know what, I don't even want a big card of them, just maybe a small one, just to remember that performance at the Euros.
I mean, yeah, it's probably like most England fans wanted a Luke Shaw card after the first 20 minutes in the Euros final last time round. But yeah, it's all part of the hobby, isn't it? I think it's the same with the Premier League. When someone has a great weekend, scores a hat trick, it's then like, oh my God, his cards are going through the roof. Everyone's posting stories about him. But I think it's like you say, it's the memory attached with the tournament. If this, whoever comes out of the pipeline, out of the woodworks and has an unbelievable tournament, and, then as a result of that, the cards start surfacing a bit more and you start seeing a lot more of them. It's the beauty of it. And I think that's one thing that really makes the hobby that bit extra, is that, you can turn a nobody into somebody in the space of 2 hours. In the space of 90 minutes, someone could turn into nothing. So nobody could turn into something crazy. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential for a lot of different players, a lot of different cards, and depending on what they release for the Euros, will obviously play a big part in that. So yeah, there's a lot of potential. There's obviously a lot of possible future stars, if you like, come the end of the Euros tournament. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, obviously, who comes out on top and who's sort of the rising star, if you like.
Yeah, I was going to say, and we've picked a few categories to predict for the Euros, and it's always quite fun predicting because it never goes right for an international competition. Always something throws a cat amongst the pigeons, whether it's an injury, a team just not performing properly, an upset. I remember during the World Cup, there was couple of big upsets, or just teams not performing. But whereas, for context, this time at the Euros, it is very hard not to get out of a group. Let's put it this way: more teams go through than go home this time at the Euros. 4 out of the 6 third places go through as best third place. So if you're going home, you have had a very poor Euros. And I think this perfectly ties into our first category, which is going to be flop of the Euros. Because whereas like a World Cup, it's quite easy for a team to have a poor game and a half, and then you're out. You're at the World Cup, you're done. Where the Euros, you can maybe still recover it. So I'm going to go with H because he was the one who's put on the thing. And he was trying to get inspiration from whatever me and Lav said. So it's going to be a tricky one.
He didn't say anything anyway.
No, see, we wanted you to be the flop of the podcast. But, you know what I mean? It's who have you gone with? I don't know if you want to single out any players within the country that you've selected or for not really going to be performing, or is it just a whole reason, like a bunch of reasons why this country's not going to do as well as anticipated?
I'm sure, much to El Toro's despair, I have gone with Spain as the flops. I don't know what it is, but I just don't see Spain having the standout players / squad to really make an impact. I should have noticed off the top of my head who's in Spain's group. Italy, for example, Italy, Croatia, and Albania. So, I mean, for me, Albania is probably, with all due respect to Albania, Spain should win that. But in my opinion, I can see Italy beating Spain and I can see Croatia beating Spain. So, the group they're in, the way they've been recently, their performance, particularly in the Euros last time round, and obviously in some of the friendlies, I don't know. I just think they'll be the flop of the tournament. I can't see them getting out of the group stages. Yeah, I might eat my words in a couple of weeks' time. But for me right now, looking at it, yeah, I can see Italy and Croatia going through.
Yeah, they've got a very difficult group. I know the one thing is that if you're very wrong and they manage to go and win it, I know Jason's going to be having one out with you on that one. And we will be inviting him on if they manage to win the Euros. Or we'll probably just invite him on even if they're the flops of the tournament. But over to you, Lav, for your flop of the tournament.
No, I've been bigging this up. And I'm going with a team who have a lot of pressure on them after the last World Cup and the failure of their last Euros. I just think it'll get the better of them. I'm going with France.
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big call.
I think Mbappe's head is Madrid at the moment, and I think he's going to show up for this tournament, and he's just not going to care as much. I think he's so excited to go to Real Madrid that he's going to turn up in Germany, and he's going to be like, he's not going to care. He's going to care, but like, I think his head's looking towards the seat of Madrid rather than the Euros of Spain, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's like I say, it's a very intriguing shout. But do you not think, like, because of how strong their squad is, that potentially could be carried through even if he didn't have the best of performances?
No, because we saw in the World Cup final last year, Mbappe literally carried them on his back, scored a hat-trick in the final, and I mean, yeah, they might get quite far in. Which I don't. They're expected to get to the final or the semis at least, and I think if they don't, then they're a flop.
Yeah, I think, like I say, there's always one team that flops and always one big player who doesn't turn up. So it'd be very intriguing to see how that one does play out. And I think for Marmite, even though they're not one of the favourites going into the tournament, they are a massive nation. They are a previous Euros winner, and that's the Netherlands. I feel like they've got this up-and-coming squad that a lot of people are not taking that seriously. Obviously, Van Dijk apparently is the best centre-back in the Premier League. Everyone keeps telling me, but don't believe that one. But they're always one of these countries that either do very well or very poor at an international competition. And even though their group is very, very likely they could get out of it, obviously they're joined by France, Poland and Austria. But I'll find, obviously, France being one of the favourites for the tournament, Poland and Austria, both countries that go under the radar in international competitions. Obviously, Poland with Robert Lewandowski. Austria, always a very solid team. And David Alaba always turns up in international competitions. So for me, I'm going to go for the Netherlands, even though I kind of hope they do well because they've got a good few young players that have had brilliant seasons, whether it's Xavi Simons, Jeremy Frimpong, for example. But I'm going to go for the Netherlands. And we're going to go into our next one now of breakout star of the Euros, which is a very tricky one. Because what do you define as a breakout? Because there's probably some fairly big names, but might explode onto the scene. Will there be a James Rodriguez of this kind of Euros of from nowhere to everyone in the world wanting him? So, Lav, over to you, the breakout star, who's not on the Chelsea books, please.
I'd have loved to have put Mudryk out there, but I don't know. He might prove me wrong, but I've actually put Benjamin Sesko, and I think that's quite a popular pick among that breakout star because he's quality. I think he'll be diamond for the Slovenian side, and he's obviously linked to numerous Premier League clubs and clubs around the world. So I think it's his time to put himself out on the big stage.
Yeah, I think obviously we've seen him linked with the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Bayern Munich, to name a few. An absolute fantastic player. And for people who haven't watched him, do try and watch him over the Euros because a player of his size should not be able to have the touch and pace that he's got. He's got the whole game. And he's meant to have a release clause around the £60 million mark or euro mark, depending on what outlet you say. So it's going to be quite an intriguing one. H, for you, for breakout star of the Euros.
Florian Wirtz.
What a player.
I think the players he's going to have around him at the Euros, the season he's had with Leverkusen, the team that Germany have got, ironically, obviously, Ron is currently modelling it for me. I think Wirtz could have an unbelievable tournament. So that's who I've gone with as my breakout star. It's not so much a breakout because he's already developed, but I just think to have that breakout at the international stage as such.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely a very solid. Like I say, he's coming off an absolute fantastic season by Leverkusen, and there's no doubt that he's one of the best attacking young players in world football. But doing it on the club level and the international level is very different. So it'll be intriguing to see if he goes on it. And for me, I'm going to go for, actually, funny enough, a player from Spain. I know H is tipping them to be flops, but Nico Williams, obviously the young winger / striker from Atletico Bilbao, I just feel like he's got everything that he needs to be a top player. And when it comes to Spain, they're always recently been more lacking in the attacking third of the pitch. They've always got a great midfield or decent centre-back partnerships. But I'm going to go for Nico Williams. There was a few others I was close saying. Fofana from France in midfield, I think he's a fantastic player, plays for Monaco. Or even Sivald, the Austrian kid who's currently playing in the Bundesliga. But I'm going to go for Nico Williams. I think he's just a fantastic player. And another player who could be on the move with a good Euros because he's been linked with everyone and everyone else well. Obviously, now moving on to our next category. And then we're going to have to go for, what one we're going to go for next? Player of the tournament. Obviously, this is going to might tie in with who you think is going to win the tournament in terms of will the best player come from the best team. So I'm going to start this one off. I personally see Germany doing very well at this Euros. And there's a certain player who plays for Bayern Munich that I think is just going to have an absolute brilliant Euros. That's obviously Jamal Musiala. Like I say, I think it was a close contender with Florian Wirtz in terms of one of them, but I feel like he still doesn't get the credit he deserves in that Bayern Munich team because obviously they finished third in the end in the Bundesliga, got to the semi-final of the Champions League, but for me, he's just got everything. Could have played for England. Would he have got an England team? It probably would have been quite intriguing having him, Rice and Bellingham in midfield, but I just can't see him not having a good Euros. Hopefully he stays healthy because when he is fit, he's an absolute wonderful player to watch. So, H, over to you for your player of the tournament.
So, I think mine could be somewhat controversial. What's funny, love?
We'll see.
Mykhailo Mudryk. No, I'm only joking. I have...
I I thought his
I've
edge
got-
finally gone. I thought it's finally done.
I've gone for Tony Kroos. I do think Germany will do well in the Euros. He showed in the Champions League final how experienced he can be. And I think with the likes of Musiala, Wirtz, Havertz, Sane, all around him, that the experienced head he's got on him can pull in midfield, can pull Germany through, in my opinion. So not the mainstream one, I guess, but I have gone with Tony Kroos possibly as the player of the tournament, much to my despair, closely followed by, I believe, Phil Foden.
I was going to say, if he goes out with a Euros and a Champions League, he could become the first ever person to win the Ballon d'Or who's already retired. That's how I see it. But over to you, Lav, for your player of the tournament.
Following on with a player who's just won the Champions League, I put Jude Bellingham, just because I think he is a fantastic player.
Mainstream. Oh, God.
And I think his confidence is going to be sky high after the Champions League win, and he is just it is a bit of a cop out just going for him, but I just think it's nailed on, to be honest.
Yeah, like I said, there's no words needed to speak about Jude Bellingham the season and what a player he is. So obviously now looking at Golden Boot winner for the Euros, always an interesting few picks in there. Sometimes it's shared 2 or 3 ways at international competitions. So we're going to straight back to you, Lav. Who are you going to have for? Even though I think there's a very mainstream answer for this one, but potentially 2 or 3 mainstream ones. But who have you gone with?
Well, I've gone with a man who could be in his last European Championship. That's Cristiano Ronaldo. I think he's going to roll back the years this Euros, and I think he's going to prove everyone wrong. He's got a lot to play for, with Messi obviously just winning the World Cup. Well, not just winning because it's 2 years ago now, but yeah, he's got to show everyone why he thinks he's the best, and I think this is his last chance on the big stage. But obviously, he's playing in Saudi now, so you don't really see much. You see the occasional thing on Twitter, but this is his last chance to say it. I think I'm the GOAT.
Yeah, I think it'd be very intriguing to see how he performs in Europe, and has the game in Saudi Arabia really changed his style in terms of how quick and slow is it out there in comparison to the European game. So that'd be very intriguing. I'm going to go for my one, and I've gone the mainstream one. I just can't see anything but Kylian Mbappe winning it, and I don't even think it's going to be close. I really think I can see him getting double digits in this Euros, because there's going to be some poor buggers in the group stage who just don't decide to defend, and he's just going to keep running past them. And how quick that French counter-attack is going to be very lethal. So I'm going to go the mainstream one of Kylian Mbappe. So over to you, H.
So my top goal scorer, I have gone with none other than Harry Kane.
Oh, so mainstream.
How is Harry Kane mainstream?
Is.
Mbappe's mainstream. No, I do think in terms of an outlet for England, Kane arguably is one of the most reliable players in the England squad in terms of scoring in big competitions. We saw how incredibly his record was in the Bundesliga this season. So given the chance and the what's the right terminology? The providing what am I trying to say? Yeah, we'll go with that. With the assistance, and if the players around him can provide, what I'm trying to say, I think he could help England go along the way. So I put my top goal scorer as Harry Kane.
And moving on to now, I think so one of people's favourite categories when it does come to Europe is dark horses of the Euros. Which team is going to go that bit further than people are expecting? Which ones can make it out the group stage when people have got it written against them? So, H, over to you. Who do you think your dark horses are going to be in this tournament?
I've said Belgium. I think they've got an abundance of talent. It's what I say to Lav all the time as well. I think he's got an abundance of talent. But yeah, I just think, that the likes of Trossard, for example. They've got so much talent in most positions that when it works, they've got a really strong team. So I do think that Belgium, for me, could be a dark horse in the competition. I'm pretty sure I said this about the last tournament, and they proved me so far wrong. But I'm sticking with Belgium again. I do think they could be a dark horse. They've got the caliber, they've got the talent. So yeah, I'm going with Belgium as my dark horse for this tournament.
Over to you, Lav, for your dark horse for the tournament.
Funny enough, my dark horse is Ronnie's flop, and I've gone with the Netherlands because I think their back line is pretty incredible, to be honest. Should they gel pretty well in those first few games, they could be a real pain to play against. The pace of Frimpong, always got Dumfries, Van Dijk, and obviously whoever that last centre back would be, Daglind, De Vrij. I can't remember who the last centre back is, but it is the pretty incredible back line, along with the likes of Wijnaldum, Xavi Simons. They really could put people wrong in this tournament, I think, anyway.
Yeah, no, I say they've definitely got the talent on display, and I think I might be the first person ever to pick a dark horses who won the previous tournament, because no one is talking about Italy. They obviously won the last Euros just about on penalties, but people just don't talk about them, and there's always this aura around an Italian side that they might not be the best players in the world. They're not got the superstars that everyone says you need to win a Euros. They might not win this one, but I still think they could make it back to a semi-finals. And if anything to learn by is they are a good unit. They've always got this way of playing. It might not be the nicest way of playing at times, but they get it over the line when they need it, whether it's to bore out a 1-0 draw or lie on the pitch, strangle people by the back of their shirts in stoppage time, whatever it might be to get a game won. They do just edge it out, Italy, and it just feels like not many people are speaking about them, whether it's because of the group they're in or the potential route out into knockout stages, semis. But I think Italy are going to have another great tournament with a few good youngsters in there as well. But obviously, the main prize is what everyone's aiming for, to be lifting that trophy at the end of it. And it's going to be quite intriguing to see who we've got as the winners. And I'm going to start by winners. And I think it's between two, but I feel like the home nation might actually bring it home this year. Obviously, it's very rare that home nations do well at Euros. The pressure of every time you go into a stadium, it's mostly your fans. The comfort being at home is always not always the easiest thing, but I can see Germany doing it this year. I think they've got the perfect blend of experience and youth. Like they say, I know H mentioned before Tony Kroos, but even the likes of Joshua Kimmich as well, Manuel Neuer, but then throwing in the mix of Florian Wirtz, Jamal Musiala. I think, obviously, I'm one of the most biased Kai Havertz fans in the world, but actually, he's been playing so well recently at international football, and he's been confirmed as starting up front. So I think it's going to be a really intriguing one. But then again, they do have their frailties at the back, just like England do. So that could be their downfall. So, Lav, who have you got for taking home the big prize at the end of it?
Well, before I go on to my winner, I want to change my dark horse because it's just been announced that Frankie de Jong's going to the Euros. Literally in the last 2 minutes. No, I'll leave it. But my winner, it wouldn't be an English Euros prediction without saying it's coming home. And yeah, I am going to back England because they've got to. It's pure talent we have in the squad. It's so. I just can't see how we can do poorly in another European competition, and there's no Spurs players, so we have no one who's going to bottle it.
It's come home already after that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm ready. Just clicked on this audio for when Harry Kane decides to miss a penalty like he did at the World Cup.
Oh,
so it's just going to be Lav saying they've got no one to. But no, say it'd be intriguing. Do you think Southgate gets a new contract at the end of the Euros if they did go on to win it, or do you think it's the perfect ending of his tenure that if he did win it or lose it, bye-bye?
I think either way, I think he's going to go at the end of the Euros. I think he might have said that. I don't know if he's officially said it, but he's rumoured it sort of around it. But yeah, it'd either be the perfect send-off or a well done sort of thing, because he does get his stick, but he's done all right. He's probably the best performing manager since 1966, in fairness.
Yeah, like I say, a lot of people do compare him to Sir Alf Ramsey. Obviously, the only thing different was they did bring on the 1966 home tournament. So, H, who have you got lifting the tournament at the end of it?
I have gone for France. Although I may well have picked a German as player of the tournament and a breakthrough star, I have gone for France as the overall winners. I do just think their overall squad depth, their overall level of their squads is still just ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. I think if you had to pivot to top three, for me, it would be England, France, and Germany. But overall winners out on top, I would have to go with France. I do think France will do it again. Yeah, I think it'll be closer than possibly the World Cup was between England and France. But for me, yeah, I think France win outright again. I think France will do it.
Well, we know Lav's answer to this, obviously going all the way and winning it. H, how well do you think England are actually going to do at the Euros?
Yeah, obviously you've got to have confidence. You've got to have faith. You've got to have some belief in the squad. And we've seen it in the Euros and we've seen it in the World Cup that we can do it. So I would like to sit it comfortably and say we can get through to the semis again and arguably push through to the final. It depends on the route we have to go down to do that. And I guess just an overall how we're playing, who Southgate decides to play. We know obviously Southgate with his subs possibly aren't the best in terms of his timings. So the latter end of the games will come into play a lot more depending on how Southgate makes them substitutions. Because I know obviously during the World Cup it was jarring in the subs he was making and when he was making them. But yeah, I've got faith. I think we can go 90% of the way through. We can. I reckon I'd have money on us to get into the semis. It just then depends who we have to play to get through to the final. So yeah, I'm comfortable we can get a good result again. I'm comfortable we can get a good length of the way through the Euros. We've got the ability in the squad to do that. It's going to come down to Gareth Southgate and how he manages that squad.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think I've got on the predictor that I would recommend everyone heading over to UEFA website. Obviously, the Fantasy Football League on there. However, they actually have a brilliant bracket prediction where you can put all in who you think is going to finish where, and it'll pin it all out for you and work it all out. But I actually have England departing in the semi-finals against France, which if the semi-finals what I predict to come out, I think it'd be a great affair. It'd be Germany, Portugal, and then France, England would be a great one to watch. I think even has England playing Italy in the quarterfinals. So the route that England are meant to be going on my predictor is going to be a tricky one. But like I say, I think it's going to be an absolutely fascinating Euros. And I feel like this is going to be the real one where it's the next generation. Obviously, like you say, Ronaldo is I think you can fairly say he's going to be at his last Euros. Probably could sneak another World Cup knowing Cristiano Ronaldo and how he just lasts forever. But there's going to be a whole new youth movement that's going on for it. Even some of the so-called smaller nations have got fantastic world-class talent coming through. And obviously, lads, we're going to look for it's going to be a month of a load of football, starting with 3 games a day. But it's just nice to be able to see so many different players that you might not necessarily see at a club level that actually get some minutes. And obviously, there might be some players that go under the radar, do very well, get transfers, even you might be calling for him to sign for Chelsea.
Yeah, most likely we'll get linked to everyone who has a half decent game. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's always great European competition. The last one was obviously ended in heartbreak, but it was a fantastic, throughout the whole thing, it was brilliant. Yeah, I think it was just after the peak of lockdown. And yeah, I'm probably looking forward to it and see who Todd Bowley is going to go for, depending on how they do at the Euros.
Yeah, like I say, it's always great to watch. It's always really sets in that the Euro starts. Obviously, that first game obviously this Friday night, 8 p.m., be Germany versus Scotland. Be a fantastic game to watch. So it'll be very intriguing to see how Scotland does as well. They've got a few good players on their books, but they've been drawn a very hard hand of who's in their group. But obviously always keeping eyes out for your naturally team or the teams you've been linked with. But like we're just saying, do you think this Euros could really be the start of that next generation? Who's going to be the big names in it? Obviously, we've already got the Mbappes. Players like Haaland are not at the Euros because obviously with Norway, but it could be people that push themselves up, the Musialas, Florian Wirtz, Jude Bellingham, to really cement themselves as the top 2-3 players of that generation.
Yeah, the Euros is one of the biggest stages to make a name for yourself, in such a massive stage, a massive tournament, a massive event to mark and set your performance level. So I think, for these players, if they're wanting to make a name for themselves, wanting to set the standard and set the level, then there's no better stage to do it than at the Euros. So yeah, of course, like we saw it with James Rodriguez in the World Cup with Colombia, the tournament that he had was incredible. And there's always that one, if not two, maybe three players that really make a name for themselves at these big tournaments, and it goes on from there. So it's interesting to gather, to guesstimate who those three could possibly be. But there's no bigger stage than a Euros or a World Cup to make a name for yourself, A, for your country, and B, when the whole world's watching.
Oh, 100%. And let's say we can't wait for the next month of action. Obviously, we'll be doing every week on the podcast. We'll be looking at the previous games, what's happened, everything like that. Obviously, we'll be joined by special guests as well during the Euros. But it's going to be a case of we'll be talking cards and football quite predominantly for the next month or so. But don't forget, we won't forget about the Copa America as well. We'll be keeping our eyes on that. But obviously, for the last very small segment of the podcast, we have to talk about everyone's favourite thing, cardboard. It's just going to happen. Obviously, pickups are very few and far between at the moment. I've got a couple, not on me. They're currently in America. But I know Lav, the one thing we always love about Lav when he comes on the podcast, he always has cards that he's recently bought, picked up, got back from grading, whatever it may be. And I know he's not going to disappoint. And if he does disappoint now, he's getting kicked from the call. So have you got anything, Lav?
Yeah, I'm skinning it again. So I've got some cards.
Can I kick him anyway or not?
Yeah, depending on what cards he shows us, you might actually get the green light.
Well, they might get kicked. Well, I'm going to start off with my Romeo Lavia to 19.
You're gone!
From first off the line, rookie card. That's one for grading. Yeah, 23 orange cracked ice already at grading, so that should be back soon. Touch wood. And going on to the next one, a pickup from the man, the myth, the legend himself, DGen UK, with an out of 15 shirt number, Enzo Fernandez from Merlin. Another rookie card, and Merlin Chrome is just, it pops differently. And a couple back from PSA. We've got a Cole Palmer, Tops Now, at 99. Me and Ron do love a bit of Tops Now.
Yeah.
Says a nice one, PSA 9. Not too worried about that because it's going to stay with me. And then this one's quite a nice one as well. Now, out of 25, Reece James from his first year of Prism, Gem Mint 10. Yeah, I was really happy seeing that come back at 10. Pop 1, all that jazz. And yeah, they're my 4 pickups from the last sort of few weeks.
I was going to say, I know we do love the Tops Now, and we're putting 2 and 2 together and thinking, obviously, Tops having the license for the Euros, Tops Nows could be for the Euros. And I think me and you could be spending a bit of money on them if that is the case, because getting some of the parallels to them Euros ones are going to be ones for the collection to keep forever.
Yeah, I can't wait to be totally skint from betting, from beers, from from Tops Now, from this Euro season this month, and I can't wait for it. Nothing else to say really there. It's the competition of Europe.
Yeah, I was going to say, betting, beer and cardboard. I think that's a very, very solid 4 weeks ahead for Lav there. And obviously, H, there's been a few cards, obviously, depart your PC. I know you've had your eyes on a few different cards, whether it's here, there, or anywhere, wherever the cardboard may lay. But anything else that particularly drawn your interest, or maybe something on the horizon which is coming out soon?
Yeah, the Arsenal Forever set, also known, has just come out as of recording yesterday. Sorry, no, as of the podcast going out yesterday, other day of recording today. Obviously, the Forever set has just come out, so it'd be nice to maybe pick up a box or two of that. Why?
So it just wants to be kicked. Just go back to your team sets, mate. All right.
I'll just turn around.
Yeah, and just take that shirt off the wall as well. Yeah, I think the Arsenal Forever set obviously would be nice to get a hold of. Obviously, still trying to complete the Arsenal manga set. And then just Erdegaard really is what I've just seemed to have gone ham for at the moment. So yeah, it's also kind of bits here and there that have caught my eye. Christ. But yeah, nothing too major. Nothing too major. It's a bit of a quiet spell at the moment for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's far from it for me. When I mentioned the words, there's about 8 new signees in the Arsenal women's collection within forever. So it's going to be a very intriguing one. But also, I've got to say, an underrated set that's not really been spoke back because it only come out in China, and that is the Topps Barcelona Year of the Dragon set. Absolutely aesthetically unbelievable release. I've always been a massive fan myself of the artwork of Chinese artwork, especially the New Year's around the animals and especially the dragon as well. So if you haven't seen that, please go and have a look online, see some of the cards because they are, I think, some of the best design cards in recent years. I really do like them. Obviously, partly biased, but there's some really nice cards in there. Like I say, Arsenal Forever is going to be very intriguing. I think the Chloe Lacasse Rainbow Auto, whatever I'm going to have to do to try and outbid everyone for the Chloe Lacasse short print cards is going to be quite fun. But it's going to be a massive few weeks building up into Euros top snouts. I'm just waiting for that announcement from them about the top snouts for the Euros. Just the different goals, different things, what happens. It's going to be a great thing. And see, obviously, last but not least, Lav, obviously, any player, non-Chelsea, that you're looking forward to watch at the Euros could be an underrated player, or it could even be that breakout star that you did mention.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching a bit of Sesko. Haven't really seen much of him, to be honest. Like watching live. But it's always good to see like I don't really watch a lot of French football, so to see Mbappe play, see Ronaldo play again. So yeah, the big guys and like a few of the breakout stars, I think will be good to see. Arda Güler, another one from Turkey, who we could have mentioned for a breakout star there. Yeah, there's definitely a few players I want to see shine during the Euros.
And I'll throw that same question over to H to finish off. Any players in particular you're looking forward to watching or even just seeing more of?
Yeah, I think like I said with my breakout style, obviously Verts. I'm looking forward to watching a bit more of Verts. I mean Havertz, obviously, like, do you know what I mean? It's one of the things. But yeah, Verts, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. Trossard for Belgium. I'm looking forward to seeing what Trossard is like. Um, and then just the usual, like Bellingham, Saka, like just to see how they can perform at a big stage in the Euros. So, but yeah, Verts, I'm definitely looking forward to having a watch of it. What I've seen against for Leverkusen, obviously, is unbelievable player. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing obviously what he's got in store.
Yeah, I think I'll throw a few names in. Name we haven't mentioned so far, Kavicha for Georgia. I think it's going to be a very intriguing one to watch, see how he does. Xavi Simons for the Netherlands is always a great one to watch as well. And I just say Nico Williams, my breakout star. I've seen a bit of him for Bilbao, but not too much. To be very intriguing. But like I say, a massive thanks to the guys over at Third Down Displays for powering up this episode of the Top Row Podcast, obviously the Euro special as well. If you want anything at all, please use TTP10 at checkout, and that will give you 10% off. You can head over to their website, use the code, or there is a link in our bio. But first of all, Lav, enjoy the beers, enjoy the betting, but please gamble responsibly.
No.
And most importantly, enjoy the cardboard and the Euros. But thanks for joining us yet again. And no doubt we'll probably get you on during the Euros, maybe halfway through, and we can actually see how our predictions are doing when we're all failing miserably.
Yeah, most likely. When Netherlands been knocked out in the group and France from the final.
Like I say, it's always great fun. And H, any closing words for you, my friend?
No, I'm just looking forward to it. Hopefully, a lot to talk about in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, with the Euros now, obviously among us. So yeah, a lot to sort of delve into, discuss all the D's. That sounded really weird. I meant as in like digest, discuss, those sorts of D's. Don't get ahead of yourself, Ronald.
D as well.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to talk about in Group D.
Hmm.
We can discuss and digest the D in Group D. But no, yeah, a lot. It'd be good. Good couple of weeks. Football's back. And yeah, hopefully we can bring it home.
Yeah, like I say, it's going to be a fascinating few weeks ahead for the Euros, Copa America, and everything else. Transfers starting rolling in soon. As soon as the Euros finishes, obviously transfers go mental. Like I say, a massive thanks yet again for everyone for supporting the podcast and getting us nominated yet again for Podcast of the Year. Hopefully, anyone who does vote, we would love for you to vote for us. But like I said, there's a lot of great podcasts out there. So as long as the industry, the podcast is doing well, that's all we really care about. But I hope everyone out there is doing well, staying safe, buying, selling, trading, all that good jazz. But most importantly, happy hobbying and good night.